Hello, so in this video we're going to answer a question that I get quite often, which is, don't native gardens look messy? And the short answer is no, but we're going to kind of dig into that more in this video, as well as I'm going to share some tips that can help you to manage that garden more easily and keep it from looking messy. So the first thing to decide with your garden, and in regards to how messy it can or can't look, is what is the garden for? Is the garden meant to be a garden, and therefore it needs to be beautiful, it needs to be attractive to neighbors, it needs to be very clean and tidy? Or is the garden meant to be habitat? So if it's habitat, then it can be messier. It can be something that is really more intended to support, pollinators and local animals, and whether it looks a little messy isn't critical. Um, It's good to think of your neighbors with that decision. As great as it is to restore prairie, having 6-foot prairie grass in your front yard might upset a few of your neighbors, maybe even your city or your HOA. Not a great decision to get all your time and money put into something that's just going to turn into a big fight. The second decision to make is, how much time and willingness do you have to maintain your garden? The lower maintenance, the less tidy. Said another way, if you want a really clean, tidy garden, it's going to require maintenance. It's going to require regular maintenance. Now, if you really pack in plants in your garden, you can really cut that maintenance down. You can cut that weeding down. But you're still going to be faced with the reality that the cleaner and tidier your garden needs to look, the more effort it's going to take. Now, as far as kind of ways you can design your garden in order to manage that, in order to help it look tidy with less input from you, there's kind of 3 very specific tips that I'll give that can go a long way towards helping you. The first, and in my opinion the most important, is you have to define your edges first, and those need to be the kind of main thing that you maintain. Keep the edges clear, and it just signals to people, oh, this is intentional, that's a separate area. I can accept that maybe it doesn't fit my grass lawn aesthetic. Now, there's kind of a bunch of different options for edges. A really cheap and easy one is just a natural edge where you just cut down with your shovel and then kind of cut an angle to create kind of a V, a check mark shape. And then you just run your string trimmer or your shovel across it occasionally for anything that's trying to jump over that edge. And it is a very inexpensive, very clean way that works really well for native gardens especially. There's also metal edging, which is very simple to install. I have found after a few years it can get a little sharp and kind of create some issues in that way. But um, it is something that I use quite a bit and I really like. It's just good to keep in mind when you have little feet running around. Kind of the final edging material that I recommend is stone or even concrete. I would kind of lump those two together. But those make a great kind of permanent edging. I do not recommend plastic. It's very inexpensive and it looks really cheap. I've never really found a good way to make it work and look nice, and I would recommend instead either doing that natural edge if you don't have the budget for the nicer edging, which is fine, or saving up and doing kind of the more expensive metal and stone or concrete options. The next tip I recommend is choose low-growing plants. So just kind of naturally, the way we've kind of been conditioned with lawns is we associate short with tidy. It's just kind of what we've learned, what we've been conditioned to see. And so by choosing plants that are really no taller than about 18 inches would be my recommendation. That again just kind of touches into that signal to tell people, okay, it's not too tall. I can see everything. There's no reason to like start feeling anxious about what might be hiding in there. And it just kind of plays into our cultural norms in a way that is very helpful and will just help keep things feeling tidy. Um, so, like I said, about 18 inches is where I would cut off in your front yard. When you start getting into kind of a backyard and a little more ecosystem focused gardens, you can definitely get taller. Again, if kind of tidy and clean is your goal, I wouldn't really go more than 3 feet, even in kind of those areas in your backyard, more ecologically focused. Unless you have a lot of land, then you can start really talking about tall plants. Now, do know when I'm saying that, I'm not talking about, say, shrubs or trees. Those are kind of different. You can kind of do different sizes for those. I'm talking about kind of the plants that you fill the bed with, your ground covers and your perennials and your annuals and things like that. The last tip I'll give you is to limit your color palette. It's kind of amazing to experience how much a singular color palette can really make something feel very clean, very intentional. The more colors that are there, just kind of the more it feels very chaotic. And you start to just kind of jump around as you're looking at the bed, and that kind of creates this feeling of messiness. You start noticing the weeds, you start noticing the things that just aren't quite perfect. But if you have kind of a singular color palette, or maybe two colors, if you really feel comfortable with your color wheel, then you can really just kind of create this sort of singular bed feeling that really helps it feel a lot tidier to someone who is looking at it. So there's the answer to the question. No, a native garden does not have to look messy as long as it's designed and maintained well. And 3 good tips for you in order to help with keeping that maintenance low, keeping that garden looking beautiful. Clean, clear edges, low growing plants, and limiting your color palette. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe. And on my website, I have a mailing list you can sign up for, or once a month I'll provide extra helpful tips. So have a good rest of your day.